Have you ever walked into a modern institution, maybe a corporate HR seminar, a university lecture, even a church service, and just felt suffocated? But not by oppression, by softness. Like the whole experience was designed to be a gentle, validating therapy session.
It's the beanbag chair phenomenon, right?
Yeah.
Everything has rounded edges. And for a lot of men, that doesn't feel like a welcome.
No.
It feels like a sedative.
That is the exact tension we are diving into today.
Yeah.
We're looking at a book that is, well, pretty radioactive in the current cultural climate. It's called Latin Mass, Manly Recreation of Culture by Conrad Riker.
Yeah, this one is not pulling any punches.
Not at all. And let's be really clear from the get-go. If you're a guy who feels totally alienated by modern culture, if you're into the manosphere or red pill ideas and you think finally someone is saying it, then you need to stop what you're doing
Right now.
and subscribe to this show.
Because we're going to break down the arguments that, most places are just terrified to even touch. And Riker's book is really the tip of the spear here.
Seriously, hit that subscribe button and do yourself a favor. Open up Amazon, Kindle, or Google Play Books right now. You are going to want to buy this ebook because we can only scratch the surface in this deep dive. And Riker's analysis is just, it's dense.
And he's got a Substack, too, at Conrad Riker, where he's constantly expanding on this stuff. It's worth a follow.
Definitely. So let's set the stage. Riker isn't writing like a dry theological treatise.
Not at all.
He's arguing that the Latin Mass acts as a cognitive fortress. He even calls it a neurobiological weapon for training masculine stoicism in a world he describes as gynocentric.
That's a heavy term, gynocentric. We should probably unpack that. He doesn't just mean women have power, it's more fundamental.
Right. It's about the operating system of society.
Exactly. In Riker's view, it's a society where the main currency is emotional validation, where how you feel consistently overrides what is true.
And his core thesis is that this shift has basically dissolved the masculine ages of our civilization.
Yeah, he says we've traded the concept of sacrifice, which is hard, painful, objective, for the community meal, which is soft, inclusive, and totally subjective.
And that brings us to his first chapter, The Crisis. Riker frames this as a flat-out betrayal. He says men have been lied to by post-Vatican II institutions.
The church, and by extension the West, has been captured. That's his word.
But captured by what exactly?
He points to this alliance of feminist and Marxist ideologies, but he uses this really interesting phrase, the subtle knife, to describe how it happened.
Okay.
It wasn't an invasion, it was an infiltration. Riker argues the warrior priest, a figure of authority, discipline, judgment, was slowly, methodically replaced.
Replaced by the therapist with a collar.
There it is. That's such a vivid image.
It really is. It implies the goal shifted from, saving your soul to just managing your mood.
Exactly. He argues that modern institutions prioritize feelings, inclusion, what he calls emotional exhibitionism, over truth and duty. He has this one line.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
Inclusion is the enemy of vocation.
Yeah, that's a sticky phrase. What's he really getting at there?
His point is, if a space is designed to include and validate everyone, it stops challenging anyone. It just becomes a domestic space.
It loses the risk, the call to adventure.
Right. And if church is just a place to share your feelings, he says, men check out.
There was that wild anecdote in the book about this, as something that seems totally counterintuitive. He talks about meeting a women's studies professor.
Oh yeah, this was one of the strongest parts of the book for me. You'd think a women's studies professor would be the arch enemy of this whole worldview.
Absolutely.
But he finds her at a Latin mass, wearing a mantilla, a head covering, and when he asks her why she's there, she says she found freedom in the Latin mass precisely because no one asked her how she felt.
That is the complete opposite of what modern culture says women want.
Isn't it? She told him modern feminism promised strength, but it just resulted in her being treated like a child who needs constant affirmation. The Latin Mass, she said, it ignored her feelings completely. It didn't care about her mood. It was just objective reality, not a negotiation.
Okay, so if the problem is a culture drowning in subjectivity, what's the solution? This gets us to chapter 2, where he calls the Latin Mass a spiritual boot camp.
And he means boot camp literally. He uses a ton of military analogies. He quotes a Marine Corps drill instructor who said, "Men don't break in combat, they break in confusion."
That's a profound idea.
Yeah.
that chaos is more damaging than the actual fight.
Riker's whole point is that the modern world is confusion. It's fluid gender, fluid morality, the 24-hour news cycle. It's just chaos.
And the Latin Mass, in his view, is granite.
Exactly. It's unyielding order. The priest doesn't ad-lib. The prayers don't change because it's Pride Month or whatever. It's a closed system.
And for men who feel like they're standing on quicksand, that granite structure has to be addictive.
He backs this up with some pretty startling stats. He cites a survey claiming that 63% of young men attending Latin Mass came from incel or MGTOW communities.
MGTOW men going their own way. So these are the online subcultures of men who have basically sworn off relationships with women.
Correct. And Riker's key point is this. These guys didn't show up looking for a trad wife. They weren't there for a partner.
They were looking for a skein.
They were looking for a spine, for a place that didn't demand they perform emotional labor. They wanted rules that were clear, strict, and didn't care about their feelings.
But he goes deeper than just psychology, right?
Uh-huh.
He gets into the neuroscience. He brings
yeah.
up studies from the University of Dallas and...
University of Innsbruck, yeah. He's basically claiming the Mass can literally change your brain chemistry.
Oh, so...
He argues that the rubric, the strict, repetitive physical movements, and the linguistic structure act as calisthenics for the male brain.
Okay.
I mean, think about the modern digital male, right? He's addicted to dopamine loops. Porn, TikTok, Twitter outrage, it's all instant gratification.
A completely fried attention span.
And Riker says the Latin Mass is like a liturgical antibiotic for that specific infection. The slow pace, the silence, the focus. It builds impulse control. It forces dopamine regulation.
It's training the brain to endure boredom to find depth.
Instead of just surfing the surface for hits.
Let's talk about that technology of the Mass. Chapter 3, Silence in Latin. I think for a lot of people listening, sitting in silence for 10 minutes sounds excruciating.
But that's the feature, not the bug. Riker focuses on the silent canon. This is a part of the Mass where the priest whispers the consecration. It can be 10, 15 minutes of absolute silence.
In a world where we panic if the Wi-Fi drops for 30 seconds, 15 minutes of silence is an eternity.
Riker calls it non-reactivity training. Modern life demands you have a hot take on everything, right? You have to process your feelings about the news, about your boss, about some tweet.
The silent canon forces you to just shut up and be.
Right. He quotes Jordan Peterson here. Silence is the precondition for truth.
It's practice stoicism.
Precisely. And then you have the Latin language itself. Why use a dead language? Is it just, LARPing as a Roman?
Riker is adamant it is not nostalgia. He calls Latin a truth tool.
A truth tool, okay.
His argument is linguistic. English is a living language, which means it's fluid, it changes. And because it changes, it can be manipulated.
We see that all the time. Words change meaning, pronouns.
Right. Riker points to the attempt in some German and English parishes to change father to parent or creator. You can do that in English because English is sort of democratic. It bends.
Yeah.
But Latin?
Latin is dead. It's frozen in amber, so it's a cognitive fortress because you can't renovate it.
You can't smuggle new ideology into it.
Right.
When you say Pater Noster, it means our father. It doesn't mean our parents. It doesn't mean our birthing person. It means father. An HR department can't update it.
So for a man seeking objective truth, a dead language is the only safe place to stand. That's his argument.
And that leads right into the physical space.
Yeah.
Chapter 4, the altar as a battlefield.
Riker has some very specific views on the choreography of the Mass. This is where the military imagery really kicks in. He talks about ad orientem. That's when the priest faces east, toward the altar, with his back to the people.
I think most people today would see that as rude or
Yeah.
secretive, like the priest is hiding something.
That's the modern critique, yeah. But Riker just flips it completely. He says the modern priest facing the people is like a talk show host. He's making eye contact, smiling, looking for engagement.
A narcissistic demand for attention, I think he calls it.
So by turning his back, he removes his own personality from the equation.
He becomes a general leading his troops. You don't charge into battle walking backwards, look at your soldiers, you face the objective.
So ad orientem signals that the priest is leading the men toward God, not performing for them.
We have to touch on the hierarchy part here because this is probably the most controversial piece of the book. His defense of the all-male altar.
He does not apologize for it at all. He argues that boys need a warrior class to aspire to. He claims the presence of women or girls at the altar changes the energy of the space.
It goes from transcendent to domestic.
Domestic. What does he mean by that? Safe. Homey.
Yeah. Riker argues and this is his red pill analysis, that women naturally bring a nurturing communal energy, which isn't bad in a home, he says, but it's fatal to the warrior spirit of the mass.
And he has that story about the progressive parish that started a women's Eucharist.
Which became what? Basically an emotional sharing circle.
That's it. They passed the bread and talked about their feelings, and Riker claims the men just vanished. They stopped coming.
Because it turned back into a therapy session.
It's that same theme again. Riker's view is that men respond to exclusion. Inclusion is the enemy of vocation. If anyone can do it, it's not special. If it's a safe space, it's not a challenge.
And if a 10-year-old girl can do the job, a 20-year-old man doesn't want it. That's a stark way to put it.
It is, but then he goes even deeper into the text itself. Chapter 5, he breaks down specific prayers as red pills. He's basically decoding the liturgy as this countercultural manifesto.
Let's take the Kyrie. Lord have mercy. Modern ears might hear that as a plea, like, I'm broken, fix me.
Right. But Riker says no. It's a tactical surrender.
A tactical surrender of the ego.
Yes. It's the antidote to the I'm enough culture. Self-help tells you you're perfect as you are. The Kyrie says, you are not God. You are flawed. Submit. It's a reality check.
What about the Agnus Dei? Lamb of God.
Riker calls this the lamb who shatters illusion. It's an acknowledgement of harsh reality, that sin and judgment exist. He contrasts it with toxic positivity, the idea you have to pretend everything is fine.
So it's brutally honest.
It's a man standing in the wreckage, admitting it's a wreckage, and asking for mercy.
But I think my favorite analysis of his, the one that felt the most actionable, was the ite missa est.
The dismissal, usually translated as the mass is ended.
Yeah, which sounds like, okay, show's over, time for coffee.
But Riker points out the literal Latin command is go, ite. It's a dismissal in a military sense. You are being deployed.
Deployed into the culture war.
Exactly. It reframes the entire hour you just spent. You weren't a passive consumer watching a show. You were a soldier in a briefing. You got your orders. Now get out of the bunker and go conquer the territory.
So we have the crisis, the boot camp, the weapons. In Chapter 6, the Red Pill Awakening. Does Riker claim this is actually working? Or is this just a niche hobby for internet trads?
He claims it's having measurable effects. He cites these internal stats about higher testosterone stability, lower depression, and this is the big one-ending therapy dependency among these guys.
Which ties right back to his theory that modern psychology is just pathologizing masculinity.
Right. Men are paying therapists thousands of dollars for structure and meaning, but the therapy process itself forces them to process it like women. He's saying the Latin Mass provides the structure without the feminized processing.
He also talks about resistance movements. This part felt almost like a spy novel. He mentions Catholics for the Reich in Germany.
Yeah, and we should be clear, he uses Reich in the old sense of realm or kingdom, not the other sense. But he describes these hiking groups in the Black Forest, Polish nationalist youth groups. He's painting a picture of men physically organizing, training, and praying together.
It sounds almost like a secret society.
And that's the veil concept. Riker argues modern culture is obsessed with transparency showing everything, but men are drawn to the veil, the hidden truth, the elite club, the difficult path.
So by stripping away the mystery, the modern church destroyed its own attraction for men.
That's his argument. He's basically saying, we broke the machine that made men.
And he believes the modern Mass, the Novus Ordo, wasn't just some clumsy translation. He cites a 1971 memo that he claims proves it was an engineered attempt to feminize the liturgy.
To make it more palatable to the modern world.
So where does this leave the guy listening to this right now? The guy who feels like the world has gone crazy, like his natural instincts are being suppressed?
Riker is telling that guy, you're not crazy, you're just in the wrong environment. You're a polar bear in the Sahara. You need a fortress.
It really forces you to ask, what is the purpose of these institutions? If he's right, and the soft institutions are collapsing because they offer nothing unique, what happens next?
He predicts a bifurcation. The therapist with a collar goes out of business. Because if church is just bad therapy, people will go to actual good therapy. But if church is a warrior training ground...
That's a unique value proposition that survives.
It's a fascinating and, polarizing complex argument. And honestly, we've barely scratched the surface of what Riker packs into this thing.
Absolutely. So if this conversation sparked any curiosity, or even if it just made you angry and you want to see the arguments for yourself, you need to go to the source.
You really do.
Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books right now and buy Latin Mass, Manly Recreation of Culture by Conrad Riker. The analysis of the prayers alone is worth the price.
And don't forget to subscribe to his Substack, at Conrad Riker. He's putting out new material on this all the time.
And hey, if you want more deep dives like this, where we're not afraid to look at the dark, controversial, or radioactive corners of culture, make sure you like and subscribe to The Deep Dive.
We don't do safe spaces here. We've got a stack of sources for the next one that are going to blow your mind.
So here's the final thought to chew on. Riker asks a fundamental question. Are you looking for a safe space, or are you looking for a fortress? Because in a world that seems determined to tear down anything that stands tall, maybe it's time to stop looking for comfort and start building walls that can stand the siege.
Go, fight, conquer.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next Deep Dive.